and big flag, you can't post this. That kind of speech control is in full effect across the spectrum. The only place you could actually have levels of free speech is radio right now. But anything electronic online, just the conversation about it is in mid sentence. They know what you're talking about. It's not like they don't know. Try. Well, we are trying with much difficulty.
When you say boost, what do you mean you couldn't boost the program?
Facebook has a component where you can boost whatever your content is.
Oh,
it's like advertising.
You pay money.
You pay money.
Right.
And that's how they make their money, through advertising and boosts and things along that line. Lion's share of their revenue. They make money other ways, but they generally don't turn those kinds of monies down. But we're in the middle of a total political speech blackout. Censorship. And as a free speech advocate, I find that very, very troubling. Particularly from an entity like Facebook, who has a history of being very open, especially when you consider how Facebook got its start. I log on and, you send a friend request is, full frontal nudity of women. That's not, Facebook isn't blocking that.
That's a good point.
But I'm not soliciting. So why are those in my?
Why are you being served up?
Because I'm 65. Well, I'm not 65. I'm 61 years old. Male. Mm-hmm. At the profile. See if you do some clicking and further exploring, then they'll know that they got you. So they know what they're doing. Even the fact that you are addicted to Facebook is by design. They know the endorphins that are released when you get a like. All of this is by design. So it's purposeful that they are throttling back speech. The algorithms that share your program are throttled back because of the content that you're talking about. So it is what it is, but yeah. So we're being treated to a very interesting time. That's all I know.
Well, the political speech, I could see that. Facebook had been very open with allowing all different kinds of voices or all manner of voices to participate on the platform. But we see where by allowing that to happen, it flourished into this everyone's using it in this malicious kind of way or as Facebook deemed malicious. And so they're not as sophisticated to shut down just the ones who are being malicious or have malicious intent. It's just too much data. And so they had to shut down everything. They can't distinguish between what is good political speech or bad political speech. And so therefore everything's got to get shut down.
I think they can distinguish.
It's too much data. And human beings are not even behind the wheel discerning this speech.
That's why it's not too much data.
It's just algorithms, but it's just too much data to process. And so you just have to shut it all down.
So you were giving them plenty of room to be you're giving them a lot of room. I'm not giving them any room. I believe they know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly who they're limiting. The AI knows. It's listening and analyzing in real time. I could put a song on right now, and a few bars in, I'll get a warning.
That's a simple.
So are certain political words. So in fact, right now, as we speak, if you click your closed caption button, it'll give you the vocal text of what we're saying in real time. That's because it's being processed and then onto the screen in real time. And it's not only the video and digital, the video and the audio, but also a text version of every single conversation that happens online is happening. You get your call screener. Would you like new number? Would you like to have it screened? Could be potential spam. Sure. Google is screening your call for the listener has chosen to use Google Screener to vet your call. Please state the reason that you're calling, and they will be able to hear you. And now what you've done is you've engaged Google to listen to the whole call. You've invited them in. That data is being stored. Everything you say online in a digital platform is recorded, and they know we opted in for this digital infrastructure and tentacles into our lives after 9/11. Before 9/11, they couldn't do it legally. Now, people are sending their data to their DNA to Ancestry.com. You have no digital privacy. You're giving it all away. And now, I just listened right before we came on the air. WTIC 1080 AM 50,000 watt flamethrower Ray Dunaway in the morning with his co-host. I don't know who the person is. Had a guest on. This is almost an hour ago. Literally an hour ago. She was a doctor and they were talking, some sort of medical, either psychologist, psychiatrist, doctor, something. But she was saying that the telepsychoanalyst is actually better because you can actually spend more quality time in the conversation and have more visits because you're actually able to have this. So it causes me to think about telemedicine. So you're doing everything electronically, which means it's all of that information is being acquired, stored. All your deep secrets, all your deep psychological discussions everything is all digital. This way it can be stored, analyzed. And so to suggest that they don't know who's walking around the Capitol with guns after they've been deployed, they know who's where. If they know that you've been assigned to room 16 in the West Wing of whatever, but they don't know anything else about you, please. Mm-mm.
There's two things that I just want to respond to, though. The AI is powerful enough to do the closed captioning, like they are listening and they're able to hear the words. They know the English language or whatever language it is that's being spoken, and they can analyze it and put it up on the screen. But what they cannot do is determine the context in which those words are being said. All they're doing is just, she said the color blue, and like it knows that I said that sentence. It does not understand the context in which I said it. AI is not at that advanced where it's determining that, like the human brain is determining the context. And that's even why people say, well, I don't want to send this in an email because it loses the context of it, because they're just words. You don't know how I delivered those words. You're just reading them on the page. I wasn't angry when I said, like, don't come in today. I just was saying, you can pick all of those things up in a conversation. AI is not able to do that. So that's our political speech problem, and why everything needs to be shut down, because AIs cannot determine and analyze context. They're just hearing words and they don't know why you said it. They just understand that you said it. So, and I now I lost the other thing that I wanted to pick up on with the telemedicine, I think it was. But that is a good point about how now all of our stuff is just being put out there like that. But
I think
that's
I
problematic.
think that AI is far more advanced than you're giving it credit.
Well, let's see some stuff. If there's some AI out there that can, I'm ready for that. Where's that robot that can?
The United States and technology has a whole lot of stuff that you might be ready for, that they're not going to just willingly hand it over to you. When we talk about AI and conversations, in many cases, we're dealing with audio and words. And context can be picked up through audio. And I believe there are levels. So if there are certain words that are picked up, then the conversation and the context or whatever it represents, especially if it's audio, gets taken to a next level of screening. And I believe it can continue all the way to the level of we need to watch or have our analysts listen to how it was said and what was said in the context it was said. So I can post something on Facebook, and if I use the word COVID, and then I share it, a message comes up. Hey, you want more information on COVID-19? Just from using the word COVID. So what I'm saying is that I think to a major degree there are keywords. Back when everybody was, when terrorists were being accused of doing everything in this country, there was a screening for certain keywords, and if you use these words, then I think it would get to a next screening and the next screening. So I believe from the AI standpoint, let's say AI can't pick up voice and context. I believe they have a way of screening where it gets to a next level, even to the point where a human or a group of humans are literally listening to pick up context. So if AI is not doing it literally itself, ultimately it is getting done depending on the levels of screening that the words and the voices and everything go through. You know what I mean?
It's triggering
these different levels of screening. So if you know, if we're kind of open about it, it doesn't have to technically be AI, but it also doesn't mean that it's not getting to different levels of screening where context is taken in place, sound of voice, pitch, all of that stuff, and if video is available, that as well. If that is ultimately getting examined as well. That's what I believe, and I think AI is being used to lead up to that as a part of that screening process. But ultimately, that is getting examined with the help of AI. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, it's just like different levels of secrecy. You know, and certain levels of secrecy require certain things, and as it continues going on, then there's this ultimate level of secrecy where only 3 or 4 people are privy to the information. I think all of this information goes out the same way, and there's a screening process utilizing AI to the ultimate maximum until, if necessary, it goes to a group of human beings who listen and pick up context and all of the rest of the things necessary to understand what's going on or what could potentially be going on.
Makes sense.
Like the TSA, like you trigger that first set, you know, like you go through the thing, you trigger the alarm there, and then the guy maybe wander down, but now we could escalate this, and we can take you into the back and do a full body scan. That kind of
right. Now, AI may not be able to assess people coming through the line at the airport. The highly trained people can. They look at your composure. You get flagged. You do have facial recognition software that can sense stress. Next thing you know, you're in the room. You got putting on gloves.
Full cavity search about to happen to you.
And you know. And you know. I seen a guy get arrested at the airport. This was way before stuff was really tight. I was like in my 20s. I was up at Bradley. And the state police asked him to move his car. And he said, I'm just waiting for my wife to give me a break. They took him out of his car. And he was going to have a bad day. Just move your car, you know. It's funny how people will behave. At the airport, folk comply real quick. I've always noticed that. Folk, this is not worth messing up your trip over getting an attitude at the airport because you'll miss your plane. But, hey, man. Well, cause for alarm? Cause for concern. We'll see. We will know for sure on Thursday.
I'll say that one of the things these people understand about human beings is that fear and stress increase compliance. Because now people just want to know, what do I need to do?
Right.
And so we're operating in an environment of fear and stress with the ultimate objective of increasing compliance.
The when you said that, a thought occurred. You don't have to put troops on the streets if people will just do what they're told. You need to put troops on the street when people are not going to do what they're told and act out and be rambunctious and uprise. So if the presence of the troops causes people to comply and do whatever they're told, stay calm, stay in their houses, wear the masks, then you have a soft martial law. You're under control. And the president-elect said one of the first things he's going to do is declare a mask mandate. One of his first actions. He may do that before he leaves the podium. But one of his first actions is to declare a national mask mandate.
100 day.
Only 100 days, because we know after 100 days you don't have to wear the mask anymore. I guess it is 100 day, yeah, 100 day.
He mentioned 100-day mask.
100 day mask for the first 100 days.
And what does that mean?
I don't know. You know, either you need the mask or you don't.
Mask more than you wearing it now.
Right, you could be if you don't wear the mask, you could be arrested, detained, and questioned. You're the leader of a cell or something, you know. These are all the words you should never say. And, all right, let's take a break. We'll be back, and I think we've overcome our technical hurdles. So it seems. So we'll take a break. We'll be back. It's Morning Talk with J. Stan McCauley, Nyesha McCauley, and Alphonso McGriff. Stick and stay. We'll be right back. Every bad political decision is made by a politician elected to office. So if you think your vote doesn't matter, just remember this. There are people sitting with politicians in a back room making deals about your future, making policies about your children, making decisions about your neighborhood. To them, you are just a vote. You are not their charity. You are not their cause. You are just a vote. Elections have consequences, and if you don't vote, you are actually voting to keep these people in power to work against you. Now, more than ever, you need to make your vote count. Declare your independence from the plantation of party politics and free your political mind.
Hello, my name is Damari Barnes and I am a member of Hartford Communities That Care Youth Leadership Academy and a member of the Education Work Group. For the past 27 weeks, we have been examining the intersections between education, poverty, violence, and trauma, and to develop the following policy and program recommendations. 1. Address the lack of funding that results in limited academic offerings such as AP classes and college courses taken while in high school. 2. Correct the shortage of extracurricular and sports opportunities and repair and maintain facilities so they send the right message to children about the importance of education. 3. Recruit teachers of color and teach the history of institutional racism. 4. Support bullying, prevention, and trauma support programs. 5. Stop the closing of schools and libraries. Thank you for your time, and I hope you can support our recommendations.
All right, my friends, we're back. All right, so we're here talking about technical problems. Yeah, we had big time technical problems this morning. We send a signal out through a streaming through an encoder and then to a streaming service, and sometimes servers get overloaded or something like that, or traffic. And the signal's not good, so Facebook was all jammed up this morning. We it seems stable now, but those are the trials and tribulations of streaming live content. But the more you do it, the easier it gets. The easier it gets. I now know what to do when this happens, because once the problem was resolved, I now know that I could prevent it from being realized by you all, which is the end user. because little techno babble. See the grid. You all can't see the grid, but Mr. McGriff can.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you remember where it says on air.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier, where it was okay, there was a number there. It was going up and finally went up to 100%. That's 100% buffering. And once the cache gets full, it can no longer hold content or data that would be catch up, and then it just shut down.
Right.
So I could overload that because I could put out a stream that's so high quality, way above 4K, that I don't have the bandwidth to send it out. So it's like putting too much water in the pipe.
Mm-hmm.
But I can redirect this signal to I can redirect that signal to different servers around the country. And they will it may have less traffic. I have it at the very lowest setting, so it doesn't overload. If I go to, it's at the low, there's like 3 tiers, and I have at the bottom of the low of tier 3, and it's putting out 33, like 3,000 kilobytes per second.
Mm-hmm.
If I go to medium, it'll put out too much, and it'll get log jammed up.
Oh. So is that what determines like the quality of it? Or?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So we could put out quality high enough that we could see the weave in your fabric if they zoom in.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no need for that kind of quality for social media. It's a little overkill. But if we were broadcasting, like television broadcasting, yeah, then it would be a necessity. But for what we're doing, that's just more than enough. But this flashing on air, I don't know if you remember, it was flashing.
Yeah.
Okay. That was flashing before we started.
Oh.
And I now, as soon as I see it flashing like that,
You gotta switch.
I'll redirect it before I hit the on air, the final on air button.
Right.
So you're familiar with the dashboard.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, you know how you toggle the things on?
Yeah.
Do you start off with them on, or do you toggle them on once you start?
Once I start.
Yeah. All right. So I didn't toggle them on, so I could have changed it
First.
Mm. Yeah. But
Learn something new every day.
yeah, a little techno babble.
Mm-hmm.
At least with this system, with the black magic, you can do that. Other systems, you may not be able to see what's happening and realize it. And I'm not sure I don't know how you change that within the restream. I know there's a way, but I've never had to do it through the restream. I do it through the device that's sending it to the restream.
Mm.
Yeah, a little techno babble. Yeah, so the baseball diamond.
Baseball diamond. What's up, man?
I'm anxious to start that thing. I'm going to wait till it gets a little warmer.
Make some calls and get a reservation.
Yeah.
So you're going to wait till it heat up some.
I just want to wait till it gets a little warmer so we could do it outside. Right now, I know there's no stripes there's no stripes or diamonds out there.
Mm-hmm.
But we could I don't know. I don't want to go over the top, but you know, I'm thinking drone. So like you could look up. If folk get a perspective, I want them to see the whole field.
Right.
And you need height and distance to get the
able
perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. Or it could be a way to.
That's why the Yard Goat Stadium would work. We could do it somewhere else, but the Yard Goat Stadium works because you can get high enough to see the whole field.
Yeah, I was about to say it could be possible to videotape or see the full diamond from
Up in the stands. Yeah, that's why I wanted to.
Can't get a drone.
Yeah. Well, the drone would be if we can't use the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
So we could use like one of the baseball fields. The one that comes to mind first is the one up by off of Tower Avenue by the school. What's the school? Simpson Waverly.
Mm-hmm.
They have nice fields.
Oh yeah, I haven't been out there.
Yeah, and then of course there's another field over on New Park.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean New Britain Avenue. Right before you get to Seatown.
Mm-hmm.
You know where that is?
New Britain Avenue.
Yeah,
The
right by
baseball field over there?
by Fairfield Avenue.
Yeah, I know what that is.
Yeah.
Fairfield, yeah.
Yeah, the Minnie Gonzalez Little League plays over there.
Oh, so
that's a nice
field.
field.
That's a nice baseball field too.
Yeah. It's nice. It's present.
Mm-hmm.
Green grass, white stripes, the dirt, the base,
Oh,
yellow. It has, you know, real defined color, edges, lines, which I think is visually.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want a field that doesn't like.
Right. Pop.
Right. Pop. That's the word I'm looking for.
So for people listening who have no idea what you're talking about,
Right.
we're talking about a concept for what I call a solution for Black people in America,
Mm-hmm.
or I also call it the secret to freedom.
The secret to freedom.
Where the basic concept is there are four steps to this freedom I talk about. And we visualize it through a baseball diamond. So we leave our enslavement home searching for freedom. When we were told we were free, now we want freedom, whatever that is. So we left our enslavement home searching for freedom. And enslavement home is home plate. And then you have first, second, and third base. So the 4 steps is we leave our enslavement home. Step number 1 is get to first base. First base is when we acknowledge that we're out of our natural mind and we're functioning with a consciousness that was created by white people during the 300 plus years of enslavement. So that's first base. Second base is we shed the burden of race-based thinking. Race-based thinking is a form of thinking that was created by white men in particular. And to compare, the race-based thinking exists on the head of a needle as it relates to all that is available to us from a universal standpoint. And so in order for us to stay involved in race-based thinking, we have to literally withdraw from the universe and join race-based issues on the pinhead of a needle. And so Step 2 is, which is second base, it is to remove ourselves from race-based thinking. And not only that, but historically we claim that we want to recover our history and our culture and our understanding of ourselves. And a lot of us totally dismiss the fact that historically we don't come from race-based thinking. We come from a universal place. So first base is acknowledging the problem. We're out of our natural minds. Second base is remove ourselves from the burden and the crippling concept of race-based thinking. Third base is reconnecting ourselves with universal concepts and understandings, including our universal approach to life and our universal life foundation, things associated with where we come from. And then step 4, which is back home, which is when we arrive at freedom. And freedom is connected to us redefining everything. So, for example, many of us say, "Oh, I want my son to know that he could have been president. That's why I'm so proud of Obama." Or I want my daughter to know that she could be vice president or even president, as a black person. So represented as Kamala Harris. But when we strive to achieve and acquire power defined by somebody else, then we can only be servants to the people who define that power. So the significance of step 4, which is define things that are important to us, so that when we strive and reach for those things, then we are empowered by that. So when we define power, we have to define it in a way that empowers us. When we define success, we have to define success in a way that empowers us. When we define mother and father and parenting, we have to define these things in a way that empower us. Everything we celebrate or that's important and significant to us, we define in ways that empower us. And all of these things are rooted in life affirmation. So our actions and our thoughts and our goals are life affirming actions, thoughts, and goals. So that's step number 4, which is home plate. So just to go back over that, we leave home plate searching for freedom. And there are 4 steps towards freedom. Step number 1 is first base. Acknowledge we're out of our natural minds. Step number 2 is second base. Remove ourselves from race-based thinking. Step number 3 is third base. Re-embrace our universal life foundation. Step number 4 is home plate or freedom. And that is when we begin redefining things. We have to redefine things because right now everything that has been predefined by somebody else is set up to serve somebody else. So even if we achieve the power and success as defined by somebody else, the only thing we can do is become its servants to somebody else. We aren't empowering ourselves with how these definitions work. So step 4 is home plate when we begin redefining things so that we empower ourselves. And where we are now as African Americans, we never made it to first base. Halfway between home plate and first base, freedom got redefined, or freedom got defined for us as having the ability to do and have what white people do and have. Send our kids to school with white people, be able to eat at the lunch counter with white people. Our understanding of freedom became being equal to or having equity with white people. And so today we're still halfway between enslavement home and first base. And we look around and wonder why we're in the condition we're in, and why even when we have success as defined by others, money and all of these other things, we aren't at peace and we aren't happy and we aren't moving in life affirming ways. It's because we never had a true definition of freedom that served and empowered us. So now we are African Americans, and we have a $500 million museum in DC that, and I'm diminishing the significance of it on purpose in my words that I choose, that museum is nothing more than a $500 million reflection and expression of oppression. A $500 million reflection and expression of oppression. African American culture is nothing more than the acceptance of expressions and reflections of oppression as a culture. So, yes, we're still scuffling because we have yet to make it to first base. So, with the brilliant suggestion of Mr. Stan McCauley, one day we're going to go out and we're going to go over this process on the baseball field. And I'm going to set it up as a potential solution for African people in America to use and apply to acquire freedom. Because we have all kinds of processes. We have Dr. Amos Wilson's book, Blueprint for Black Power. And we have a lot of other people with ideas on how to acquire power. Most of those ideas revolve around economics. I question that to some degree because without a universal and life-affirming mindset and consciousness, what good is economic power? All we have to do is look at all of the unsung videos and watch and see how we have learned from white people how to take advantage and disrespect each other in the name of so-called economic power, and how we have been historically taking advantage of in the name of so-called economic power. And so the African American way of life is nothing more than a reflection and expression of oppression. And we are much bigger than that. Life is much bigger than that. And in order for us to truly have an opportunity to come anywhere near reaching our potential as human beings and a people, we have to get reconnected with life-affirming behavior and truly understand what it means to be free, because there's no environment that we exist in where we can't be free. So basically, that's a general understanding of the baseball diamond.
That was a great synopsis. We need to lift that out and turn it into a 10-minute package. Because that was great. So I know it'll be really spectacular when it's on the baseball diamond. Yeah, so 4 steps. The theory is simple. The practice and implementation may take some doing. But if your whole existence defined by the last job you had and you're 55 years old, you're more than the last job you had in the last 5 years. What about all that before? And so if your history is defined, because people talk about cultural food like pig feet, chitlins, head cheese. None of this is cultural food.
It's an expression and reflection of oppression.
Right. So if you was fed water and crackers, that's not like cultural food because you were imprisoned and chained to a wall and your ancestral home was the prison. That's not your culture. It may be an experience that you had, but it's most certainly not your culture. So the oppression is being defined. You're being taught that the experience of oppression is who and what you are.
Right.
And that's the starting point from the experience which you're being presented. And so if you don't understand yourself deeper than that, to be economically empowered serves you doesn't serve you well. I knew a woman who used to live downtown the Richardson. I remember when I was much younger, like 25, 20, 8, 17. When did I come? I came here when I was 19. I lived downtown the Richardson. And she lived in the Richardson. Little old frail woman. Her name was Rose House. And she was a hoarder. And I don't know whether she had money or not, but she said she had money, and I do know that she paid her, either her or her conservator paid her whole year's rent up front. Mm-hmm. And she was economically empowered, but it didn't profit her any, because her the context of her reality was to save everything she had in her apartment, which they had to condemn, because it was packed wall to wall, almost to the ceiling, with stuff, flour, all just all kinds of stuff. She was hoarding. And so if your mind, and I use that as an extreme example of someone who you can see that the framework of their reality is limited by a condition of the mind. But then aren't we all in some way limited perhaps by the condition of our minds and our consciousness? Because you are your mind, you are your brain, you're your consciousness. So if you are conditioned and limited in a way, it doesn't matter how much money you have. And freedom becomes somewhat distorted, because your freedom isn't the same as other people's freedom. You can't climb the walls of the Capitol. You go down there and climb on the wall of the Capitol. 2 years from now, see what happens. Let alone 2 years ago. You can't do that.
Remember that one?
That's
woman?
suicide by cop. That is suicide by Capitol Police to climb the walls of.
You talking about for black people?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's clear.
The woman with the baby in the back seat. That the one you talking about?
Yeah, who was driving around.
Right. DC police shot. Was it DC or was it Capitol Police?
I don't know, but all I know,
she did.
She got shot up with the baby in the.
Right. She did. I don't think she died, but she got shot. Or did she die? She died. Right. The baby didn't.
The baby didn't.
Right. They killed her.
Yeah.
She made a wrong turn. It's so I think they seem. Mm-hmm. I guess they thought she was a
threat.
Imminent threat.
But she was black, so that's different. And don't forget it. Don't get it twisted.
Right.
This is still America.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it is what it is. We're not saying, it is what it is. You talked about on what is it? Second base. I have the bases written down. First, second, third base, fourth base, but I didn't write down what the bases were.
Fourth base is home.
Fourth base is home, where you return, you leave from home, and return home
to freedom.
So
we leave from enslavement home.
Enslavement home,
and then we return home to freedom.
Return home to freedom. Okay, so is are you returning to the same place with a different consciousness?
From a universal standpoint, yes, you can return anywhere, but you have a different consciousness.
Okay.
It's just like people who demand reparations. The consciousness of a person who demands reparations, according to me, this is not necessarily fact or truth. It's just my perspective. The consciousness of one who demands reparations is one who is functioning with a flawed consciousness and enslaved consciousness. Because the free consciousness would understand there's nothing anybody can give us that's better what we can give ourselves. Not only that, but to waste time demanding reparations is like demanding intelligence.
That's interesting. That's an interesting analogy. I demand that you make me intelligent.
Yeah.
And confer on me a degree. I want an advanced doctorate degree.
There's something twisted about that. And so, in our right minds, we would never demand reparations, especially when the people we are demanding from are the ones that put us in the condition we're in. There's no way they're going to give us reparations. Not only that, but they've given other people reparations that they have in no way handled the way they handled us. So they've demonstrated in action that you Negroes are not getting so-called reparations from us. And so these kind of things are examples of what it's like to function with an African American consciousness, or a consciousness that is a representation and of a representation of expressions and reflections of oppression. You can only come from the root of an expression and reflection of oppression to demand reparations from white people. And then we have this other thing where we complain about capitalistic society. Black people, that's like black women getting caught up in feminism. Again, this is just a perspective of mine. Black people have no business running around complaining about capitalism when we don't even have a consciousness that will serve our own best interests. In this capitalistic society, okay, yeah, there are the haves and the have-nots and all of that kind of stuff. But in our right minds, we can use this society to serve us just as well as any other society, or even if we were in the forest. And what I'm saying is that we've already demonstrated that. We've demonstrated that we are capable of generating trillions of dollars. We've demonstrated that we're capable of generating generational wealth, but it's just been for other people. Whether it's in music or entertainment or whatever form of entertainment that goes on in the society, we have generated income, generational wealth for others for as long as we've been here. The question is, if we have the ability to create generational wealth for others, then what is the reason why we're not doing it for ourselves? So, and the reason why we're not doing it for ourselves is because, again, we're functioning with this consciousness created by somebody else. And there's no way that we can use our consciousness to serve our best interests when we're functioning with a consciousness created by somebody else. If we can generate and create generational wealth for anybody else, then we can do it for ourselves in this same environment, in the same society, and have a consciousness that serves our well-being. But again, it for me, it boils down to our consciousness and our mindset. And, you know, So we complain about capitalism. We complain about feminism. We complaining about reparations. We getting ourselves in all of these other things and not dealing with the root of us, which is our mindset and our consciousness. Because we think we're okay because we've been conditioned to believe that as long as we have the opportunity to do and have what white people can do and have, we're okay, we're free, we're fine. And we're not. And if somebody can convince me of post-traumatic
slave syndrome,
what's the other syndrome when you're
stress.
in the military? Yeah.
Post-traumatic stress syndrome.
If somebody can talk to me about post-traumatic stress syndrome,
Mm-hmm.
and with a serious face, then something is wrong with us when we can't see the same thing. And usually they're talking about a year or two fighting in the military on the front lines. A year or two.
Or being a police officer or a fireman.
Being a police officer or a fireman for a few years. Even if it's 20. And I call it a few because I have a right to. There's a difference between 20 and 400. So if we can understand that, then how can we not understand our mindset and consciousness after 400 years of pure oppression and duress?
This morning in conversation, along with the doctor person or expert, I don't know who they were, because I came into the conversation and came out as you do with talk format, radio, TV, whatever. You jump in and out. Mm-hmm. That's why we're here for the time, because we know you're not listening for the whole 2 hours. But one of the things they talked about was the long-term effects on the children of the pandemic, which started in March. This could be seen for generations. So, I mean, because they've not been able to go to school. The distance learning. What will happen if they can't, during their adolescence, interface with other people? I mean, these are the stress that's the way it was, the context, as my wife was talking about, the context in which it was delivered was that this could be impactful to us in ways that we can't even fathom, comprehend, or understand. So if in just a short 10 months, the children of America have been irredeemably affected, then it's not a stretch of the imagination that a whole people have been affected by 400 years of oppression. But some find that, get over it. Come on.
Well,
which is ridiculous.
As long as we don't address it, the condition won't get better.
I think that your consciousness has to be critical component, if not the number one component, in figuring out how to become self-sufficient and productive to ourselves and our people. If you don't have a consciousness first, then nothing else matters. If you can rescue people's consciousness, if you can rescue their mind, then you have a basis upon which to work. It's like building a house and you don't have any land. And so where are you gonna put the house? Where are you gonna construct your house? Never mind foundation. You don't have any place to build. What are you gonna build upon? build it on someone else's land, pay them rent. Where do you construct that which belongs to you? And so to me, your mind has to be free in order to do that, which is how we got on this conversation about the baseball diamond, because I asked Alphonso the question last week, and he says it's the 4 steps. Mm-hmm. So I think that's brilliant, and I think it's achievable. I think it's doable, and I want to use that as a tool. I know it's part of a bigger package, but I think that is a powerful tool, a first start tool that people can use.
And usually when I talk about the African American aspect of it, I have to first talk about the bear on the bicycle, and then bring us to the African American part. So yeah, the bear on the bicycle is a key part of that, where we are now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
the bear on the bicycle is now. Have you done the presentation with Ted yet? The TEDx?
No, I haven't.
Because the TEDx, it's a TEDx talk, right?
Right.
So the TEDx talk is on the bear and the bicycle. Is that correct?
No, I want to do a TEDx talk on the bear on the bicycle.
Oh, okay.
And actually they just started taking TEDx just started taking applications this month, I think.
Okay.
So I'll be applying to see if I can.
Because didn't you do a presentation with the bear on the bicycle?
Yeah. Yeah, but that was that wasn't.
That was not a TEDx.
That was a synopsis for TEDx.
Oh, okay.
But it was only a 30-second presentation?
Right.
Yeah, it's a 30. So it was like, give me an elevator pitch,
right,
of what you want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what that was.
Okay.
But ultimately, and a bunch of, I guess, I don't know, thousands of other people presented their 30-second pitches. And mine was one of the top 10 pitches,
right,
that they received, but that doesn't give you an automatic in
to
have a chance to speak for TEDx.
Okay,
that was independent of speaking for TEDx, but it was one of the best pitches. So, I still have to fill out the application and apply to be a TEDx presenter.
Okay.
And so yeah, the bear on the bicycle and the African American is in itself is a story.
Right. Could I mean there's nothing like a TEDx talk. However, you could still do that without it being
it doesn't have to be a TEDx.
It doesn't have to be TEDx.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we gonna do.
All right. Okay. Because I was gonna say we can do that as well.
Yeah.
Because I think of a TEDx presentation more as a semi-lecture on a stage. Mm-hmm. Maybe I shouldn't limit it to that, but I mean, I'm just saying in my mind that's what I see that as. Whereas the baseball diamond is just the 4. That's just the 4.
4 steps.
The 4 steps.
And this is that's what I'm saying. We can do that too, because the presentation. See, the cool thing about the bear on the bicycle is you can see the 4 steps on the baseball diamond. You can be like, okay, that's 4 steps to recovery, freedom. That okay. But you can't begin to understand how to apply them until you understand that relationship between the bear on the bicycle and the African American. And that's the significance of that story. So, yes, we can do.
So we need to do, it needs to be more than just we need to do.
We can do.
Are you open to the idea of the TEDx presentation, inclusive of the. I don't want to limit the ability to do the TEDx by anything that I suggest.
No, TEDx is that's the whole separate entity. That doesn't stop anything else. It doesn't interfere.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is, yes, I'm open to doing that. Just the bear on the bicycle and the African American.
Mm-hmm.
That aspect of it, as well as doing what we want to do with the baseball diamond.
Could we package it all as one presentation?
Yes, we can.
I mean, it doesn't all have to be. The production doesn't have to happen all at one place, but the final presentation that the person gets is one thing.
Right.
Starts at the bear, ends here.
Well, see, we would. What I was thinking is we would do it the way, kind of almost like today.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like you have the bird's eye view, and I give you the 4 steps.
Mm-hmm.
And so we go from enslavement home back to freedom in the 4 steps, right? And then I come back like I did today and say, okay, where we are now, halfway between home plate and first base. And then we deal with the bear on the bicycle. You understand what I'm saying? And the African American.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it could. I can see it being done in one thing, even if the bear on the bicycle aspect of it is it's almost like you got the bird's eye view, and then we magnify this bear on the bicycle at the end. I mean, on the second part, so we understand where we are, and then we bring it back out again and say, okay, this is where the African American is, halfway between enslavement home and first base, and this is why we have yet to begin the recovery process.
Okay, so we haven't even made first base.
No.
Let alone getting anywhere near second or third or coming back.
We haven't made it.
The bear is riding his bicycle. The African American is riding his bicycle to first base, or the bear is riding the bicycle to the first base.
The bear. This is
because it seems like the bear is first of all, bears should be riding the bicycle.
Hold on. This is the
in
point.
The tutu.
We don't even want to get to connect the bear in first base, because we have to deal with the bear on
the bicycle. Right, he got to get off the bicycle first.
That is the most important. That bear is riding that bicycle with a tutu
on.
No.
Out of his natural state and mind.
Out of his natural
doing
mind.
Something that it does not do, but has been made to do for the entertainment of the circus owner.
Yeah, that mindset. And the African American is the same way. In our demand for freedom, we never demanded to be reconnected with anything as it relates to our own history and culture. We sat at a lunch counter and let people pour food on us because we wanted to sit down and eat where white people had the right to sit down and eat. I am comfortable in saying today, with the opportunity to look back, that is a form of insanity. And this is why I don't.
My worth and value is not established by my ability. My worth and value is not established by me demanding that you give me the right to sit next to you and eat.
So this is why I don't celebrate men. I respect life-affirming messages.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we get involved in the celebration of men, we open doors for the celebration of men. And that gets twisted really fast.
Right.
So I respect the message. What is the message? And is the message life affirming?
Mm.
How do you live or have a message about anything connected to humans and is not also connected to life affirmation, from the standpoint that every living thing, including us, is life? How does it not represent life affirmation? But we live in a society where our entire way of thinking has nothing to do. It's a lifeless way of thinking.
Mm.
Profit, power, and control. When you hear black people talking about generational wealth without talking about the quality of our consciousness, that's a lifeless conversation. When we talk about even health and how we eat and everything, and we're not talking about our consciousness, it's a lifeless conversation. The reason why it's lifeless is because it's like pouring these wonderful seeds into sand or onto the concrete. We have to pour these wonderful seeds into a life-affirming consciousness. Great ideas and wonderful seeds going into a lifeless consciousness is not going to work. And so it has to be, according to me. I always have to say that because, again, I don't claim this to be the absolute truth. I just claim this is, I present this as another approach.
Life affirming.
Life affirming, man. Life affirming behavior.
I like that. I was in a press conference the other day and mentioned that if the police treated people with an attitude that was life affirming, they would do everything they could to save folk.
Including if you right here and they right there, shoot them in the legs and make them fall.
Right. They would do everything humanly possible. It would be shooting you to neutralizing the situation by taking your life would be abhorrent beyond measure. If you were life affirming, you'd almost take your own life before you would take someone else's life.
A police officer told me blatantly, we are trained to shoot center mass. To kill. Period. But I understand that in a lifeless reality, with a lifeless mindset and consciousness, and a lifeless foundation.
Right, because most of our television programming and movie programming is not life affirming at all. It's actually quite
the contrary.
Quite the contrary.
Yeah, I just got through watching Vikings.
Vikings. Let the blood fest begin.
Yeah, man.
Nice Viking axes and slaughter. Any head decapitations or no? I mean, you watch the. You could just watch. You don't even have to watch the trailer. If you just look at the image, it's one of wanted slaughter. But I did see Beyond the Wire. Or Outside the Wire.
No, I don't know.
Outside, it's actually not that bad. Sci-fi. But a lot of gratuitous killing.
But it's so easy. It's so easy.
Mm-hmm.
Just to ask the question: is this life affirming behavior?
Yeah, you may actually want to watch that. It's an interesting presentation because it talks about AI, next level technology, and one of the main characters is AI. But look at the real AI that's employed in the movie, because you're now starting to see the DARPA robots come onto the scene, and they're integrating the DARPA robots into the psyche of people, where you see them actually being deployed, the DARPA dog and the DARPA soldiers, and how they operate. Call them Gumps in the movie. And my wife was talking about AI is not that intelligent yet, and so I was gonna, but watch that movie. It's very interesting.
That's the same movie we you just talking about?
Yep. Outside the Wire, Beyond the Wire. It's on Netflix.
That's on Netflix.
It's entertaining.
Oh, okay.
Understand
it's
life.
Sci-fi. Life affirming foundation principles. Yep. Understand life, preserve life, and improve the quality of life for the whole.
All right. Alphonso McGriff for the last hour. And we will see you here tomorrow. Focus on education for a little while, and then a conversation with Dr. Maya Bowen and Russell Williams. We'll see you then. Ciao.